time it is? It's time for KP's Video News. KP's Video News, y'all. KP's Video News, y'all. KP's Video News, y'all. Right here. KP's Video News, y'all. It's time for what? KP's Video News, y'all.
That's right, it's time for KP Video News, y'all. What? Oh yeah, KP's Video News, man. Anyway, I want to give a shout out, my condolences to the Milton Brown family in Chicago. My condolences for your loss. And you know, I mean, when I started thinking about, you know, people that I've been knowing these families that I grew up with since I was a child in Chicago, when I moved to this particular neighborhood at like age 4. So I've been knowing these guys in my old neighborhood all this time, you know. So I'm talking about 60 years, man. That's how long we go back. And wow, it's a real tragedy, man. My condolences. You got my number, man. If you need me, call me. Anyway, wow, man. Not getting into too much detail, but just tragic events. Anyway, KP's Video News. I mean, when I look around and I think about the way things are, this is what is this? October 13th, 2021, and I don't know a person, and I know a lot of people nationwide, I don't know not one person, man, that's not experiencing something. Either they have a friend or a family member that has been dealing with COVID, some kind of opioid situation, you know, joblessness, homelessness, illness, something. There's something going on worldwide, nationwide, man. And, you know, we just have a small mind. We don't have God's infinite mind to figure these things out. So we have to let God do what he's doing and let this stuff work itself out, because we're just here along for the ride. Anyway, on with the show. I have a young man named Greg Jackson Jr. And so the story is a crazy story, because he was shot. And even though he was shot, he was treated like a criminal when he got to the emergency room. And the most painful part of the memory is, he stated, is that he almost died. It's not the 6 surgeries he underwent, the half year of being bedridden, or the image of his younger cousin using a shirt as a tourniquet to save his life. It's not even the thought of the gunman. So what brings in a flood of resentment is his reception at the hospital. After he was rolled off the ambulance on a stretcher, still clad in his bloody clothes, police officers, not doctors or nurses, greeted him and began peppering him with questions. Where was he when the shots rang out? What role did he play in the altercation? Why was he out so late? It was seen as a criminal first and a person second, says Jackson, who had been walking home from an engagement party with his cousins when he was shot. And in Washington, D.C., they turned a corner and 2 men were arguing. One of the men panicked, opened fire, opening 2 arteries in Jackson's right calf. Jackson said he endured 3 rounds of questioning before he was medically assessed by hospital staff, who did not intervene with police. By the time he was rushed into the operating room, doctors told him that he lost so much blood that without surgery he would have died in about 26 minutes. Jackson was 28 years old at the time, overseeing gun violence prevention efforts for then Barack Obama's nonprofit organization, Organizing for Action. But the emergency room, he was a young black man, he says, treated as a suspect rather than a bystander. Wow. Say he'll never forget. He could have died being interrogated. It says a right space for biases and disparities. 8 years later, gun violence in the United States has surged to record levels. Homicides rose 30% in 2020 from 2019 alone, the highest jump year to year in the FBI's recorded history, according to figures from the agency. Exacerbated by the pandemic and convergence of other factors, the spike is disproportionately affecting black Americans, whose advocates say suffer 18 times more gunshot injuries than white people, as well as what comes after. In Philadelphia, Dr. Theodore Corbin has witnessed firsthand how young black men with gunshots or stab wounds are treated as suspects even when they arrive in the emergency room as victims. As a black man, Corbin says he speaks up for those moments of injustice, but some colleagues do not. The emergency department is a very fast-paced and dynamic environment, says Corbin, an emergency medicine professor at Drexel University College of Medicine. There's a ripe space for bias and disparities to show themselves. That dynamic represents deeper levels of institutional racism that go beyond the actions of any one provider. There's a notion that young black men don't just get shot, they get themselves shot. Rich says the providers, they believe that it could never happen to them unless they were somehow looking for it. It's no coincidence this attitude exists, researchers say, when given who the providers are. Of roughly 919,000 active physicians in the nation, only 5% are black, while more than 56% are white, according to the Association of American Medical Colleagues. Most recent figures for those whose race or ethnicity is known. This spring, a UCLA body found it took 120 years for the percentage of black doctors in the United States to climb to 5% from 1%. And that percentage of doctors who are black men hasn't increased at all since 1940. In emergency rooms, the diversity gap gets even wider. Out of more than 43,000 physicians practicing emergency medicine in 2018, about 69% were white, 4.5% were black, according to the study published by the American Journal of Emergency Medicine in 2020. And in the year and a half since the COVID pandemic began, an impact of race on medical care has been impossible to miss. The U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention says black Americans are twice as likely as white Americans to die from COVID, and even more likely to be hospitalized from the virus. Yet, black and Hispanic people remain less likely to be vaccinated against the disease than people in other racial ethnic groups, according to the CDC. The Kaiser Family Foundation and several studies, they may have also be less inclined to have their children vaccinated, which public health workers worry will further render black families more vulnerable to the virus. In a new survey of more than 1,400 Illinois parents of children under 18, researchers found that the demographic groups most severely affected by the pandemic had the highest rates of hesitancy toward a COVID vaccine for children. Nearly half of black parents were reluctant to have their child vaccinated, compared to 26% of white parents, the survey found, attributing vaccine hesitancy to mistrust in the government and in research. So, folks, it's that's a real bad number, and and the reason for that distrust, for many black folks, goes back to the 40-year Tuskegee experiment from 1932 to 1972, which hundreds of black men in Alabama were used in a study a syphilis study without their knowledge or consent. That's one reason why black people don't trust the government and don't trust the vaccine. So, wow, man, that's really a sad statistic. Knowing that black people are the ones that are dying the most from COVID, and we're the ones that are getting vaccinated the least. And that was something that I did not know. I was thinking that might have been those anti-vaxxers, those hardcore far-right Trumpers out there that hate everything, that hate Dr. Fauci, and that hate the truth. And but actually, black people is like the largest group of people that are unvaccinated in this country. We got to do better, folks. We're being exterminated, pretty much. So, okay, we in Madison, Wisconsin, an attorney. This is a new story representing the families of 3 people who died at the hands of a former Wisconsin police officer, filed another federal lawsuit against him Wednesday, saying his department taught him to view black people as dangerous. The lawsuit alleges that former police officer Joseph Mensah allegedly violated Jay Anderson's constitutional rights when he fatally shot Anderson after discovering him sleeping in a park after hours in 2016. According to the lawsuit, Anderson followed all of Mensah's commands, but Mensah still considered him a threat because he was black. Mensah, who was black, said Anderson was reaching for a gun, and the county prosecutor declined to bring charges in the case. The lawsuit alleges that the police department have a history of racist officers dating back decades, pointing to police parties in the late 80s and late 90s where officers dressed in blackface and Ku Klux Klan literature was present, but officers were never disciplined. The lawsuit also asserts that the city is 95% white, but black people made up 83% of the arrests in 2018. Having learned the lessons of a police department rife with racism and racial discrimination, immediately decided that a black man sleeping in his car was suspicious and dangerous. The WPD devalues people of color, which is reflective in their over-policing of black people. The filing seeks unspecified damages from Mensah and the city and the former police department chief Barry Weber. Online court records did not list attorneys for Mensah or Weber, and the city attorney Alan Kessner did not immediately respond. And wow, man. Prosecutors chose not to file. Last year, the same cop fatally shot a 17-year-old Alvin Cole as he fled from police following a disturbance in a mall. Wow. Prosecutors chose not to file charges against Mensah again in any of the shootings, and Motley filed a federal lawsuit against Mensah on behalf of the Gonzalez family in July. She's filing another suit on behalf of Alvin Cole's death as well. And said Motley also used the John Doe proceeding, a little-known Wisconsin legal maneuver similar to a grand jury inquiry to persuade Milwaukee County Judge Glenn Yamahiro to order a special prosecutor to consider charging Mensah in the Anderson case. The judge is expected to make the appointment this month. So that's right. Go ahead and do what you got to do, and let's get this done. It's a lot of crazy stuff going on, man. A lot of crazy stuff going on. So which one of these cases I'm going to do? I think I'll do this case. This information just came up an hour ago, and they had a Indianapolis police officer facing felony charges for kicking a handcuffed man in the head amid arrest. An officer for the Indianapolis Metropolitan Police Department has been hit with a pair of felony charges after he was caught on body cam footage kicking a handcuffed man in the head amidst an arrest last month. Sergeant Eric Huxley was charged on yesterday, with official misconduct and battery with moderate bodily injury following an internal investigation leading to a Marion County District Attorney. He's also been suspended without pay, and the Chief, Randall Taylor, has recommended Huxley be terminated for his actions during the arrest of Jeremiah Vaughn, which unfolded on September 24th in the city's Monument Circle. Sergeant Huxley was one of 3 officers responding to a report of disorderly conduct when he first crossed paths with the 38-year-old Vaughn, who was black. Body camera video of the confrontation played during a press conference on yesterday, starts off with Vaughn, who was already in handcuffs, getting searched by police. He tells the arresting officer, who has not been named, that nobody cares what you do anymore, prompting a brief scuffle. Vaughn lands on the ground. Just a few moments later, Huxley can be seen kicking the suspect in the head, telling him, "You're done." According to a probable cause affidavit, Vaughn was arrested for disorderly conduct and remained behind bars in Marion County Jail as of Tuesday. He's being held on a $150 bond. $150, man, you gotta be kidding me. $150 bond, and he can't get out. Anyway, while Huxley has not yet been taken into custody, police said an arrest warrant will be issued for the officer if he does not turn himself in. Taylor said in the press conference today that he only just became aware of the incident October 6th and immediately ordered an expedited internal affairs investigation and special investigation unit investigation. They've also contacted the FBI and the U.S. Attorney's Office about the confrontation. Police chief noted the video was released in a bid to be transparent and that he is fully aware that there's going to be some people upset by it. Said, "My hope is that the community understands that when these things come to our attention, we'll deal with them quickly and get those people off the force," Taylor said. "Please don't hold that against our men and women that are trying to do a good job day in and day out." And we go right back to the same old stuff, man. Good apple, bad apple. You know, old folks had that saying, you got one bad apple in the barrel, it spoils the whole barrel. So, let's see what's going to happen with that case, folks. Anyway, yeah, man, I've been just dealing with a lot of situations, like I said early on. And a lot of people that I know have been dealing with a lot of things, man. At this particular moment, I felt a briefly felt that I felt good enough to try to make this video, but I'm going back and try to get some more rest. And KP's Video News, man, sometimes you just got to do some things even though we don't feel like it. We got to do it anyway. So folks, enjoy the rest of your day, the rest of the week. I don't know when I'm going to do my next video, but like I said earlier, to the Brown family, Milton Brown, the Brown family, my condolences for your loss. To my niece, get well soon. To all the people that I know, man, that are going through a lot of trials and a lot of tribulations at this time, I'm hoping that all these things work themselves out quickly and in an efficient manner. And we got to give all glory to God for for the best outcome, and hope for the grace of God for a better outcome. Okay, folks, it's KP's Video News.
And you know what time it is?
You know what time it is.
Time for KP's Video News.
You know what time it is. KP's Video News, y'all.